Good morning to everyone once again. Today we begin with a new book, Sutta Discovery, Volume 13. This is a new volume. This volume 13, actually, there are 3 or 4 parts. SD 13 deals with only one sutta. This is one of those very special occasions when it's only one sutta. Normally, one volume we can, have up to 18 or even 20 over short suttas. But here, first, the Satipatthana Sutta is one of the key suttas, as you all know. So, we have 2 main suttas in this volume, translation of 2 suttas. The first one is on the board here, Satipatthana Sutta, M10, right? And the other one, which is much longer, is Maha Satipatthana Sutta, D12, or D22, D22. So these 2, plus the introduction, so you have quite a long text here, and then there are some other extra articles on breath meditation, Satipatthana, so these are all connected. Now we're going to do a detailed study in this series, so I hope you all will not miss any lessons. And please feel free to make notes on that's what the book is for, so that when you reflect on your own, you find that it's easier to understand. There are many things which you cannot get if you just read by yourself. Oh, definitely you get a lot of things when you read the suttas. I've been reading the suttas myself, but if you listen directly to teachings by a living teacher, you get some more insights. Okay? So I don't know how many times I've heard the sutta being taught by different teachers over the last 30, 40 years. And then I translated this myself. Because translation is a very wonderful exercise where it's a very intensive way of learning something, a text, especially in ancient texts like this Satipatthana Sutta. One problem with translation is there is always the translator's bias. I mean, this is fair. I mean, any translator creates a new work. So there is no one good translator, let's put it that way. That is why in my translation, you might notice sometimes I use some devices, some kind of strategy if you like. For example, we can't decide on certain terms. Let's say some words like samadhi or even satipatthana itself. Okay? You may have different meanings. And different translators will tell you this is the best translation. But actually, it's more complicated than that. There is no one translation for one word. For example, if you take the word Buddha, we normally know the translation of Buddha as the awakened one, referring to a person. But sometimes the word Buddha is used as an adjective, awakened teaching. So you've got to see the context, right? And then again, also even other terms. You have to check to see the context. Very important to see how is it used. Then another thing we must be aware of is what I call the 2 periods in the Buddha's teaching. The early period, that is the first 10 to say 20 years of the Buddha's time, the language is very simple. No technical terms. Even the word Satipatthana is not used. And then during the second period, that is roughly the last 25 years of the Buddha's time. So total you get 45 years. So during the last 25 years, things get more technical. One reason is because more intelligent people, Brahmins, are becoming monks. People asking more difficult questions. The teaching has been given for many decades. So things became more systematic. And this systematization of Buddhism keeps growing, even after the Buddha's time. And it reached the height, at its height, and it's called Abhidhamma. It becomes so technical, okay? So in other words, the simpler the sutta is, especially on meditation, the older it is, right? So this is where we should master the simpler suttas first, and then from there you go on to the more difficult sutta, then you understand it better, in other words. That is why I like to tell people, I say, please don't get excited about learning Abhidharma until you have mastered the suttas. Because if you don't know the Dharma, how are you going to know about the Abhidharma, you know? It's like trying to go straight into astrophysics and nuclear physics without even knowing what general science is. Another thing is, whenever you study Abhidharma, you must ask yourself, does it explain the suttas clearly or not? If not, you don't have to accept it. Well, these are opinions of later scholastics. And then there are the commentaries. The commentaries were written about 500 to 700 years after the Buddha's time to explain the sutta. It's just like now I'm trying to explain the sutta to you, and this is being recorded. Maybe 1,000 years from now, people watch this and they think, oh, you know, this talk is outdated already. There are other ways of interpreting the suttas. You can never know. Maybe in the future they find a way of going back to time. You know? They could go back to the Buddha's time and interview the Buddha. I mean, it sounds really far-fetched, but you can never know in the future. So these are, in other words, every translation is dated, contextual. So you can ask yourself, well, what's the use of translations then? Well, we are living in a certain time. We can talk to each other through the language of our times. That's why translations are very important. We can use Pali, but then not many of us know Pali. So translations are useful, but they must be up to date. All right? So one of the scholars I knew long ago, Ms. Ivy Honor, one of the ex-presidents of the Pali Text Society, she told me that it is ideally, you know, every translation should be revised after every 50 years because language change, usage of words change. Of course, if a translation is good, we can always, you know, like use it for a longer time. I don't think in Buddhism we can ever have a version like King James Bible or even a revised version. Even the King James Bible is getting a revision. So it's not good to compare Buddhism to a book religion. So in Buddhism, in many ways, Buddhism is a translated religion. Translation is going on all the time, especially Chinese translations, for example. So we have to compare all these texts. And then comes the real thing. The real thing is when you do your own meditation. When you do your meditation, you are practicing what is being taught in the sutta. Because the Satipatthana Sutta is not a text for comprehension study. It is to make you understand, number one, how to meditate. What is the purpose of the sutta? And this is, you will notice, there are very wide divergent views over the use of the Satipatthana Sutta today. And this can be very worrying, you know. When I was first a monk 30, 40 years ago, the dominant idea was Satipatthana is about Vipassana. And I couldn't relate to that. For some reason, how is it? I can't see the relationship. Maybe a bit, yes. Then later, when the forest monks of Ajahn Chah came to the world to teach the Dharma, they said, oh, you know, actually the Satipatthana Sutta is about jhana. And then I look at the sutta, I look at the Eightfold Path, yeah, it's clearer, see? In a sense, both are right. It depends on which part of the sutta you look at. That is why we need to look at the sutta very carefully, completely. And this is what we'll do for this module. So the next point is, when you're meditating, and then you come out of your meditation, you read the suttas, and you say, oh yes, now I understand this more clearly. For example, in one of the suttas, it's mentioned that Satipatthana is Samadhi Nimitta. What does this mean? You know? We'll be talking about all this, right? I mean, you notice I've written the word there on the box, we'll be talking about these terms in a while. I'd like to give to you this very important introduction so you know the context of the suttas. Another thing is, Buddhism has grown a lot since the last 30, 40 years. So everybody knows about suttas nowadays. Everybody means those speakers, and they all will tell you as if they've known everything. They speak as if they're experts. And you might even be convinced. or they might be experts for that matter, but experts are usually wrong. This is the irony, because they look at one thing, just one thing, and they never compare other things. So they're helpful in a certain way, but after a while, if you don't practice, you find that what they say is not very helpful. So what I'm saying is, don't be discouraged because you hear different speakers, different teachers say different things about, say, Satipatthana or even Buddhism as a whole. They are expressing their opinions, they are expressing their influences and biases. Listen and then look at the context. Sometimes what they say are very useful. They're telling us bits and pieces here and there of the sutta. They look at one side and they're talking about that. So if you put all this together, which I love doing, I like to listen to all these people, they talk something useful about the sutta, and I put all together, I say, oh, this is very interesting. When you put it all together, it becomes very clear. Ultimately, you have to ask yourself, does this sutta, or rather does my learning of this sutta help me in my meditation or not? This is my undivided approach, very clear. My intention is, this is what suttas are for, so that we understand ourselves better and our meditation improves. And then with the meditation, you look at the sutta, it becomes clearer. And this has happened many times. For example, there are occasions when I find certain passages are very difficult to translate, and I try to get some teachers, even monks, to explain. They just couldn't explain. And this struck fear in me, because I told myself, is Buddhism beginning to be forgotten? Is the Dharma beginning to be forgotten? When you can't even get a single monk, even the best, they cannot explain a particular term. So this is where I told myself there must be a way. Then if we look carefully in the suttas and other suttas, other parts of the Tipitaka, you put them together, you'll get it. That is why the sutta discovery is so inspiring to me. I have found a way where you can locate all these meanings in the sutta itself. Of course, many monks, many wise monks have said this. They tell us, study the sutta with the suttas. If you look at the sutta carefully, and you have enough memory, make notes if your memory is not good, you'll find the explanation here and there, the context, and things become clear with your practice. So we're talking about 3 levels of learning. Those of you who are not familiar with them. First is called Sutta Maya Panya, wisdom arising from listening, academic knowledge. Sutta, 1T, S-U-T-A. Sutta Maya Panya. Wisdom through listening. Like now, you're listening to me. This is the traditional way the students learn in Buddha's time, through listening. Today, of course, we include reading also. Second level, Cinta Maya Panya. Cinta means thinking. If you like philosophical knowledge, you reflect, you think about it, you put it together in your head, you say, oh yeah, that's clear, right? You think for yourself. In other words, the second part is you put together all the things you have heard. Then comes the most important level of learning, Bhavana Maya Panya. Bhavana means cultivation, meditation. That's the final source of Dharma knowledge. This is what we mean by personal experience, direct experience. You realize for yourself. You put it together. So, oh yes, I got it. In other words, when you study sutta, it's not how many suttas you have heard, or how much you have understood, or how well you have presented the sutta even. Because these are all views. Ultimately, these views will change you. It affects us. In other words, all these things we do and learn makes us better persons. This must happen. If this doesn't happen, that means wrong approach. No matter how many suttas we study or talk about, there is no internal change. We are just talking machines. Okay? So in other words, first, there is the 3 trainings, right? Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sila is moral conduct. In moral conduct, don't kill, don't steal, or don't do this, don't do that, right? That is the morality, the training of letting go of wrong views. No to this, no to that. 5 no's. Second level is bhavana sikha, samadhi sikha, right? Mental cultivation, training in mental cultivation. This is where we cultivate right views, right? So first training, clear away wrong views. Second training, cultivate right views. And then wisdom on a higher level is no views. Once you understand the Dharma so well, you say, oh, no need views anymore. It's just like you climb a ladder, you use a ladder to climb a high place. Once you reach the top, you don't need the ladder anymore. Or the famous parable of the water snake. This happens when you meditate. I like to talk about meditation as renunciation. It's a very easy way, very effective way of understanding the nature of meditation. When we meditate, we are going through the real act of renunciation. Even if you don't get jhanas, you make the effort to just sit quietly. Number 1, you must renounce your body. Number 2, you renounce your thoughts. Then only you're at peace. 3 levels of renunciation. It's connected with the 3 trainings again. Because the training in moral virtue has to do with the body. The precepts deal with the body, right? First 2 precepts deal with the body, right? And then the 4th precept on speech. Speech also part of the body. So first we renounce the body. We remain silent in meditation. We close our eyes. We sit still. We don't worry about sounds. All the 5 senses we let go, let go, let go. It's like we shut down all the 5 phones. First renunciation. Then we face our thoughts. Gently we let go the thoughts also. Right? Second level of renunciation. Letting go of thoughts. We often like to talk about letting go, renunciation. And then finally, when you let go of all these things, there is peace. There is peace. You feel very good and happy. You don't need to be a monk or a nun to do this. And you come back into the world, your mind is calm and clear. Then you can read the sutta more clearly, more meaningfully, more joyfully. The most important thing is to have joy. Okay? Any questions on what I've said so far? Okay, so now let me explain to you why we have Satipatthana Sutta and then Maha Satipatthana Sutta. Ajahn Sujato was saying that the Satipatthana Sutta is one of the most political of the suttas, you know. Because whatever one teacher says, another teacher might say something else. And everyone have their agenda when they talk about Satipatthana Sutta. So in many ways, we have to really listen with an open mind, open heart. If you want to meditate, you just need one sutta, Satipatthana Sutta. Because Satipatthana Sutta tells you what to do. Maha Satipatthana Sutta is twice as long as the Satipatthana Sutta. That's why it's called Maha, by the way. Why is it twice as long? It contains the Satipatthana Sutta, N10, and also a long section talking about the Four Noble Truths, which actually forms another sutta called the Satcha Vibhanga Sutta. Satcha means truth, Vibhanga means analysis of the truth. This is in the Majjhima Nikaya. So this sutta is very long. And scholars have done research. You see, the Maha Satipatthana Sutta is located in the Digha Nikaya, the long teachings, you know. Okay? Whereas Satipatthana is located in the middle length teaching. Correct? Suttas located in the Digha Nikaya are very long. Most of them are stories, legends, beautiful stories, inspiring stories. You can't practice much of the teachings in the Digha Nikaya. Why? Because that's not the purpose anyway. The purpose of the Digha Nikaya suttas are to impress the newcomers, impress outsiders. It's like an advertisement. to show that the Buddhists have got very impressive repertoire of teachings, very deep, very wonderful stories, very deep teachings. Some of the legends are amazing, like Aganya Sutta. The Buddha talks about the beginning of the universe, the beginning of society. I mean, what can we meditate on? Nothing. They are beautiful stories, right? And then the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the Buddha talks about meditation and the analysis of truth. Any outsider will be impressed. Say, oh yeah, so this is wonderful. So they come, they look at the sutta, and next thing they'll ask is, what do I do? What do I practice? Then you go to Majjhima Nikaya teaching. So that's one of the things we need to know. Now, another thing is, the suttas as we have it today, especially Satipatthana Sutta, even the Satipatthana Sutta, is an enlarged version of a much older, shorter version. Now let's say in your quest to know the Dharma, you found two suttas. The title is the same. One sutta is very short, the other sutta is very long, but they talk about the same thing. Which sutta you think is likely to be the older one? Short one or long one? Shorter, right? Because any Dharma moved monk will never shorten a sutta. I mean, they feel terrible, you shorten, you can't say that I'm going to remove this part of the sutta. But they're more likely to add rather than minus. In fact, that's what they did to the Satipatthana Sutta. Okay? Because when you study very carefully, some of the parts of the sutta don't seem to fit in. Let me give a simple example. In the first part of the Satipatthana Sutta, we are taught, okay, we watch the body in the body, okay. One of the meditation here is the breath meditation, right? So you watch the breath coming in, going out, and then there is what's called a Satipatthana refrain. It's a chorus, it repeats itself after every instruction. It says, you can watch this inside yourself, ajata, or pahida, in someone else. That makes sense, okay. For example, if I'm sitting meditating, and then my breath becomes very peaceful, but I'm still conscious, I can hear my next meditator breathing very heavily. And if I'm not focused, if I'm not mindful and I have no training, I get very upset. I say, how come this person is so noisy? It's distracting, it's like complaining, then you can't meditate, you see. So, what I do is, I will synchronize my breath to this person's breathing. Okay? And then I'll be very peaceful. On the more mundane level, this is what you do when someone is snoring in your bedroom. Don't get upset, don't get angry. Synchronize your breathing to the speed of the snoring. And then you find it doesn't trouble. But that's a mundane application. Okay? Alright? But in meditation, coming back to meditation, okay, so here you are watching the breath of the next person. That's fine. But then you come to feelings, Vedana Anupassana. Okay? The person next to you is having an unpleasant feeling or pleasant feeling. How are you going to reflect on that? You can't. You won't know, right? Unless you have psychic powers, you see. But how many of us have psychic powers? You see? So you have a problem in applying that particular aspect of practice. So there's a hint there that part must have been added later on. Okay? So scholar monks like Ajahn Sujato have mentioned, says this is probably added in much later. Then what he did, he took a step further. So what he did was he tried to get the essence, the original text. What would it be like? So he shortened everything to just the essentials. That's all you need when you have to meditate. And fortunately, I'm in touch with him, so I managed to follow what he did. And if you look at your contents page right in front, can you see brackets 4, page 142, brackets 4, Satipatthana Mula, right? That's what I'm talking about. Now, so this is on page 142. Now, I will leave you to read his own version. What I'm going to give you is, I'm going to give you my, even a more simplified version based on his own, and I call it the Mula Satipatthana Sutta. This is on page 150. Page 150. Now if you look at this reconstructed version, simplified version, or older version if you like, you notice very simple. It deals only with Satipatthana, page 150. Now the first part simply is the introduction. This is the Ekayana path, the direct path where only one goes by oneself to the one-pointedness of mind. Bhikshus and bhikshunis, for the purification of beings, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for ending bodily and mental pain, for understanding the way, for seeing nirvana. That is the four focuses of mindfulness. What are the four? And then they are given, okay? The four satipatthanas. Number one is contemplating body in the body. And number two, feelings in feelings. And number three, the mind in the mind. Number four is Dharma in the Dharmas. Okay? And each of them is explained in detail. All the four Satipatthana explained in detail. And page 152, you see contemplation of Dharmas is much shorter than the Sutta, Satipatthana Sutta. Only two items are given there. Number 17, mental hindrances. Number 18, awakening factors. These are directly to do with meditation, not the other extra things. The extra things are like, you can see, if you look at page 136, for example. If you look at page 136, you have page 136, the 5 aggregates, and then the 6 sense bases, and then only the awakening factors, and then the last one is Four Noble Truths. Okay? In other words, in the sutta as we have it, a lot of things have been added in. And you find if you really want to meditate, it's difficult, too much theory in other words. So we're talking about a meditation sutta. Meditation sutta will teach you how to meditate, not give you a lot of theory. The theories will be given other suttas. That's the meaning. Okay? Now this is very interesting. This is detective work, sutta detective work. And it's because the teachers like Ajahn Sujato, they dare to apply all their learning and meditation. They say, this can't be right. It's not that this is wrong. I mean, if you study as a class sutta, that's fine. But I'm not saying that, oh, we must have a revolution, no? Get original sutta, shorten everything, throw out the changes. We can't. We don't know actually what the original sutta is. But through meditation, we know this is what we would need to teach people. If I were teaching meditation to the class, this is what I have to teach. These are the four focuses of mindfulness. If I go through the whole sutta, nobody will be able to meditate. Simple as that. So this, I'm talking about theory and practice. In theory, fine, we can study all the sutta. In practice, we just need the essential step-by-step instructions. Okay, so that's my meaning. I'm not trying to be astrologer the suttas. So what is interesting here on a historical and sociological level is this. Something happened, during the hundreds of years, 1,000 over years that the suttas were handed down. At some point after the Buddha's time, the theory became more important than the practice, in other words. So they started expanding the suttas. So now what we're doing is, we're going back to the practical side. That's the meaning. So, with that background, let us start with the suttas. So my point is, whenever you're not sure, look at the Mula Satipatthana Sutta, the shortened version. That will give you a clear grasp of the essence of the sutta.
What's the difference between your Mula Satipatthana and Satipatthana?
Okay. Number one, as I said, is translator's bias. Ajahn Sujato uses his own terms. If you look, he likes to use certain terms. He used the term convergence. Yeah, page
146.
page 146. So he used the term number one, Satipatthana Mula. Okay, I'm still not sure what he means by Satipatthana Mula, because if you want to, Satipatthana Mula would translate like Satipatthana roots, or the roots of Satipatthana, I suppose. Whereas Mula Satipatthana would mean something like the root Satipatthana, so more like the original simplified Satipatthana. So it's a slight difference in meaning. Okay? And then he used the word convergence. I'm not sure again why he used this word, but I noticed in his writings he very often quotes the Upanishads, the Brahmanical writings. So maybe he's influenced by that, I don't know. And then there are certain terms he uses which are unique to him, whereas for me, I've always used certain sets of terms, so I need to stick to them. Otherwise, you read it, you say, how come elsewhere I use this and in this translation I use something else. So this is called standardization. So my version I standardize using the terms I normally would use. But you are free to choose whichever text you can understand better or you can relate to. Okay, that's the important thing. There are many translations and we are free to choose. Okay, with that, let's start. Let's go to the start of the Satipatthana Sutta, page 126. Remember, there are lots of things about this sutta. As you go on your meditation, in your peace of mind, just open up any section and just read, and all this will become clear to you. Over time, this is a lifelong quest. It's taken me 30, 40 years to understand this. So no rush. Okay? And every moment you spend reflecting on the sutta, meditating, is kusala karma, good karma. Even though you may not don't have this idea, the moment you read it, one night you must understand everything. It's not that simple. Right? Yeah, you may think, yes, now I understand everything. I've read this cover to cover. Don't make a mistake. I revise this book constantly when I get new information, new teachings. And then I have so many friends in different parts of the world. They will tell me, oh, this teacher is wrong, that teacher is right. And then someone else will tell me, just the reverse. I said, oh, that's wonderful. I said, we have to learn from everybody. Okay? All right, page 126. Now, first of all, Satipatthana Sutta. That's the title. Notice I put apostrophe after Sati. I will explain it in a moment. Translation, the discourse on the focuses of mindfulness. This I followed people like Ajahn Brahm, they like to use this term. So, well, since they are meditators and they feel this is right, I use this term too. This is a very easy way of not getting blamed. Somebody asked me, why do you use this translation? I said, oh, some famous monks use it. So, but anyway, I do agree that this is okay. I mean, if I think that this is not suitable, I wouldn't follow it. For example, I don't follow Ajahn Sujato's Mula Satipatthana, Satipatthana Mula. I rather prefer Mula Satipatthana from my own understanding of Pali. And 10. Okay, Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 10, pages 1 to 55, volume 1, page 55 to 63. The theme is how to cultivate the clear presence of mind. The clear presence of mind. Okay. If you follow the commentary, Satipatthana is often explained as Sati plus Patthana. Okay, this is where you can go to, let me show you the page. Okay, page 12. section 312. So if you miss what I've said, you can look up the notes there, right? I'm going to kind of just stop reading and occasionally look at the notes. The commentary says Satipatthana is resolved as Sati plus Patthana. But in other words, the foundations of mindfulness, it translates foundations of mindfulness, stations of mindfulness. In other words, the objects of meditation. But if we really look at other suttas elsewhere, they are not actually objects of meditation, but rather they are, something happens in our minds. Our minds become more focused. We place our mind onto those objects, so to speak. So, Sati Upatthana would be a better way of separating the words. I written on the whiteboard. Upatthana. Upatthana is the act of placing your mind firmly on the object of meditation. So in other words, when you resolve is to break up the word into its parts. Satipatthana into Sati plus Upatthana, you're placing importance on the mind. Whereas if you break up the word Satipatthana, you are placing greater importance on the external object, in other words. Okay? So, Upatthana means to place your mind, make your mind stable, make your mind calm, focus, using the breath, watching feelings, watching the mind, and so on. Okay? So that's the first thing you should note, right? More technical details, for references, you can look up 3.1.2. Right? Lots of discussion here. Read on your own. Eh? Otherwise, it becomes very technical. Now, let us go back to the sutta. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying among the Kurus. There was a market town of the Kurus named Kamasadhamma. There the Blessed One addressed the monks, Bhikshus. Bhante, the monks answered the Blessed One in essence. Alright, so this is the introduction. Now, the Buddha taught this sutta, the Satipatthana Sutta, to the Kuru people. The Kuru people is a country. Kuru is a tribe, okay? Why did the Buddha teach them? Because they are very wise, very healthy people. They keep us healthy and very wise. And next section, there was a market town of the Kurus called Kamasadhamma. Now this structure is very interesting. It doesn't say the Buddha stayed in this town. In fact, the suttas never say the Buddha stayed in a town. The Buddha will always stay outside of habitat areas, in the forest and shrub. So here, the sutta is telling us there is this market town. So this place is prospering, commercially. And the town has come up. The name of the town is Kamasadhamma. And the Buddha is staying outside the town. Okay? And the monks were there, and there were other people listening. Now, let me show you a map so you can see where this Kamasadhamma is, and I'll explain the significance of it. Look at page 2. Page 2, you can see the map of the middle country. The middle country is where you see the Buddha live and taught. Huh? Okay. All right. Now, what famous town can you locate there?
Delhi.
Oh, that's very fast. Okay. Kuru country is right on the top left-hand corner. Indraprastha, Delhi, okay? That's where Kuru country is. Whereas the usual places Buddha would teach will be in the center of the map. Can you see, for example, Saranath, Varanasi, Vaisali? See, those are regular areas Buddha taught, many suttas. But the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha went all the way, quite a great distance, to the northwest area. What sort of area was this? This is Brahmin country. Brahmin country. Okay? You see, in the Buddha's time, the Buddha land is dominated by Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas are the same as the Buddha's class. The rulers, the warrior class. Okay? The empires were coming up. Okay? Republics. And the influence of the Brahmins was going down. Okay? But the Brahmins, in other words, they migrated more to the west. So the Buddha went to those areas to teach them. And the Brahmins, by nature, they are, they're scholars, priests, so they're very learned people, they're teachers. So it's very easy to teach them. And also they keep themselves healthy, right? So these are the Kuru people in that area, right? So just to give you an idea of the location. Any questions there? Okay. Now let's go back to the sutta. So here again in this sutta, the Buddha is the one who teaches this sutta unprompted. He's the one who initiated the teaching. It says monks, and the monks respond. Remember, although these teachings given to the monks, maybe the monks were sitting there, we do not know how many, maybe just a few followed him, and then all around other people from the Kuru country, because the sutta says that the Kuru people were there and they were very intelligent and healthy, so they were listening to the suttas also. So remember, although it's just say monks, there are other people around. Okay? Someone asked me a very interesting question the other day. He says, I like this kind of people who really imagine things, which I used to do also. There were no microphones those days, no PA system. And the sutta says there are 500 monks, No, this questioner says 1,250 monks, the symbolic number. He was talking about Mahayana Sutta. He says in the Mahayana Sutta, they like to say 1,250 monks listen to the Buddha. Actually, in the Pali Sutta also, there is a mention of 1,250 monks, especially Maka Puja Day. So he was wondering, 1,250. That's quite a lot of people. Big hall. You go to upstairs, the top floor, the big hall. You need a PA system to talk. So, how could they hear the Buddha, with 1,250 people? So this is a question I was asked. I think it's not easy not difficult to imagine. Number one, we don't have traffic like here. No cars, no trains, no planes, no handphones, no televisions. Very quiet and peaceful. Alright? We are so used to noise here, especially in Singapore, very high level of decibels even now. You go to the jungle, Bukit Timah is the closest you can have to a jungle. You go to Malaysian jungle, worse. You can hear all those crickets and cicadas, very loud. But when I went to Perth, the meditation retreat center in Perth, I was amazed. The nights were so peaceful. Not a single cricket or cicada. Then I told myself, imagine this kind of peace. So you can hear talking very clearly. So the monks were sitting very peacefully, very quietly. And the monks are very focused in their mind. They are not talking to each other. They should not be anyway. So obviously when the Buddha talks, they can hear him well. Number two, I'm sure you have Indian friends, right? And their voice are occasionally very loud. Most of them, their voices are loud. And they talk very fast, very clear. So the Buddha is that kind of culture. So you put all these together, you can be sure the Buddha was a clear public speaker. His voice is loud and clear. Right? So all these people can hear him. And another thing, I don't think his crowds were huge, like thousands, After all, the villages are very small, so maybe you have a dozen monks, or 20, 30 monks, and then the villagers come. So we should not make the numbers too big. Okay, section 2. The Blessed One said this, Bhikshus, this is the path for one going, the path that one goes by oneself, for the purification of beings, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and displeasure, for gaining the right way, for realizing nirvana, that is to say, the four focuses of mindfulness. Now here the keyword is put last, Indian style, Pali style. This is the four focuses of mindfulness. The normal English idiom would be, they would say, the four focuses of mindfulness is for the purification of beings. Purification of beings. That means you can keep your precepts well, your right speech also you can maintain, right? So if you meditate well, it's easier to keep the precepts. They help each other back and forth, okay? You want to really do your meditation well, you must keep your precepts. You must have precepts. This is one of the big things that's happening now in the world of psychology. Before Buddhism came to modern psychology, Western psychology was chaotic, amoral. The psychotherapists were sleeping with their clients, and their clients were having transference with their psychotherapists and so on. And there was big problems, very difficult. Now, the psychotherapists, the mind scientists discovered meditation and Buddhism, and they're using this now. In fact, very soon, the key pioneers will be coming over to Singapore, to the NUS, to give a forum. Okay? So, in other words here, when we talk about meditation, the idea is to calm our body and speech, purify our body and speech. So, the precepts help us to bodily, verbally prepare ourselves for meditation. Because if you have broken precepts, then you start thinking about them, you feel guilty, very difficult, right? So there is a meditation called Sila Anusati, the recollection on moral virtue. Here is where people have a wrong idea. They don't study sutras, then they feel very guilty. They say, wow, I killed so many chickens, broken so many precepts. And in Singapore, there's so much Western influence now. You can say most Singaporeans now are amoral, things like that, So once they come to a retreat, they might think that they can't meditate. They feel very guilty. You'd be rather sad that happens. But that's not the way it works. Sila Anusati means you remember a time in your life when you were really happy. Like now, for example, you're listening to the sutta, we recited the precepts, you're keeping it well. Remember moments like this. So we must encourage these people. They will tell you, oh no, I'm not a good guy, I can never meditate, I do this, I do that. Say, no, there are moments in your life that are peaceful, remember those times. And you remember those moments when you kept the precepts. Then you're pure, temporarily, then you meditate. So there's a chance for everybody to purify their mind. Okay? So that's one simple way of explaining for the purification of beings. For overcoming sorrow and lamentation. You don't hear the Chinese lamenting very much unless someone they love dies. But then again, I don't think they're really sad. They do that because society demands it. You must cry loudly, otherwise you don't love a relative, That's not true, of course, we know that. Of course, in Buddhism, Buddha says, what's the point of crying and lamentation? Indians are like to do that, they also beat their breast, roll on the ground. The Buddha says, don't over-dramatize. It doesn't work, it doesn't help the disease in any way. But you have loving kindness, that helps them. So the Buddha was a radical even in his own time. He's telling his people, don't roll on the ground, don't beat your breast, don't cry loudly, it doesn't help the dead. So, what does this mean? Once you purify body and speech and you start doing satipatthana, you start doing meditation, you feel good. Immediately you feel good, you feel happy. So, sorrow and lamentation, no more than that. Even if you don't go for long retreats, but you must have some idea what meditation is. Then you can practice on your own. Then you find, as a rule, your life is happy and peaceful. So that's the meaning of overcoming sorrow and lamentation. The disappearance of pain and displeasure. Now this one becomes a bit tricky. Disappearance of pain and displeasure. Pain is physical pain. Displeasure, mental pain. Bodily pain, mental pain. Disappearance of bodily pain and mental pain. What does this mean? If you do your meditation regularly, you will notice as you age, as I have aged, pain, real physical pain starts descending upon your body. This is one of those times I don't feel the pain when I'm talking to you, because I'm very focused. After this, once I finish talking, I feel my shoulder pain. Now if I leave my shoulder, I can feel the pain. And there's a little numbness in my thumb. And we get other kinds of pain, right? But if you're really a true practitioner, you find these pains normal. You don't get upset about them. You can still do your work. But your work is mental work for self-cultivation, to become better people. You are not discouraged by bodily pain. Of course, I'm not saying you don't care about bodily pain. On the contrary, you have early warning system. When something is wrong with your body, you quickly attend to it. So in that way, you are more healthy. You are less likely to get into some serious disease. Mental pain is more troublesome. Mental pain, unhappiness, disappointment, sorrow. For example, I heard my brother died. I mean, he's the only brother I had, so I felt very sad. And I couldn't go to his funeral because we're all Christians, and I don't want to upset anybody there. So I did all the prayers in my home, but I felt very sad. But then I told myself, people have, even loved ones to pass away, and you get on with it, you go with your work, you see. And suddenly you get disappointed. For example, you say, we worked so hard to teach the suttas and so on. But most people are not interested in suttas. They're not interested in teaching. They're not interested in teachers. Oh, this famous teacher is coming to town, or that famous teacher is giving a talk, and they run to these teachers. But basically they're hearing the same things. So it's not the teaching interested, it's the teacher. Oh, this teacher is very handsome, that teacher is very powerful. I hear this, you actually tell me. So you tell yourself, these people are really interested in. So you feel sad about them. In a way, you worry about them also. So what's going to happen to them in the end? But then you cannot give up. Because you give up, and you're part of the problem. In fact, when you see this thing, you tell yourself, wow, my work is not done. I have to put in more effort. So when you're in meditation, you get inspired. Inspired means joy. Now there are 4 kinds of food that sustain us, according to the suttas. The first kind of food is called Kabalintara Hara. It means solid food, physical food, the food that you normally take, solid food. Right? Then you have sense impressions. Your senses working, sense impressions. You can sense contact, they call contact, asa. And then this karma. Karma also acts on you, gives you energy. Karma, okay? Or sankhara, okay? Body, speech, and mind. And then consciousness, the 6 senses working. So these are 4 kinds of food, all right, which sustains us. We are not sustained by rice and curry alone, but we are sustained by the working of our senses, the karma, and also consciousness. But there is a 5th food that we all need. You know what's the 5th food? The 5th food is joy. Joy. Piti, joy. I thought about this because in the suttas you often hear the devas, their food is joy. If you look at the Aganya Sutta, the Aganya Sutta says the devas feed on joy. So I was telling myself, if you really want to write beautiful reflections, you want to go on giving Dharma talks, day in, day out, you want to continue meeting people, listening to their problems, especially your social worker, you must have joy. Even as parents, you must have joy. I mean, if you don't love your children, you won't be able to do anything for them. If you don't love your family, you won't be useful to your family. So love also is a kind of joy. But how do we cultivate this joy? Through meditation. Through meditation. Through breath meditation. When you're peaceful, you're also joyful. Through loving kindness, you create joy. So if you have joy, you work better, basically. This is another very important, simple idea we must learn. So here we're talking about overcoming disappearance of pain and pressure, pain and displeasure, bodily pain, mental pain. So in other words, when you are meditating, you are less troubled or not troubled by physical pain or mental pain. Pain control. So this is a great way of helping your friends who are sick in hospital. Tell them, okay, just watch this feeling as feeling, let it go. Then something more important, the purpose getting deeper, if you like, for the gaining of right way, gaining the right way. You can see the Pali word in note 7, Nyayasa Adhigamaya. Nyaya. Remember we recited the words just now, Nyaya, Patipanno. Whenever you see Nyaya, think Eightfold Path. Whenever you see Nyaya, meaning the way, refers to Eightfold Path. So when you do meditation, Satipatthana, you will hit the Eightfold Path. Or that's the purpose, to hit the Eightfold Path. Ultimately, what's the purpose of Satipatthana? The last one, for realizing Nirvana. That's the most important goal. So you can see that the sequence of goals. So in other words, here again, let me summarize one more time. When you practice Satipatthana or any meditation for that matter, you purify yourself. First phrase. Second phrase, you overcome suffering. Third phrase, you feel happy. You can tolerate higher tolerance of, higher threshold of pain, mental and physical. Then you practice the Eightfold Path, and if you do this properly enough, you head for Nirvana. So this is the definition of the 4 focuses of mindfulness. Okay? Any questions?
The path for one going, does that mean the Eightfold Path?
Okay, I'm coming to that now. Any questions before that? Any questions before that? Any questions on what I've said? If not, then I would want to explain Ekayana and the key terms which are written on the board. Okay, page 11. Basic Satipatthana terms. Page 12, okay, I've explained all these things. I'm just showing you where the notes are. Now let me go back a bit to Satipatthana, okay, before I go to talk about Ekayana. Page 15, section 3.1.3. Satipatthana, you have the word Sati in front. What does Sati mean? So we need to know these terms a bit more carefully. Mindfulness. Mindfulness. What does mindfulness mean? Look at the Araka Sutta. Araka means protecting. Can you see Araka Sutta, page 15? Bhikshus, there are these 4 reasons that diligent mindfulness, appamado sati. Mado, M-A, has got macronym. Appamado sati should be made the mind's guard. What are the 4? May my mind not harbor lust for anything that induces lust. For this reason, diligent mindfulness should be made the mind's guard. May my mind not harbor hate for anything that induces hate. For this reason, diligent mindfulness should be made the mind's guard. May my mind not harbor delusion for anything that induces delusion. For this reason, diligent mindfulness should be made the mind's guard. May my mind not be intoxicated for anything that induces intoxication or infatuation. For this reason, diligent mindfulness should be made the mind's guard. And everything repeats itself. Look at the last line on the page. Mindfulness, as such, provides the necessary information for a proper application of right effects. So, mindfulness means the preventing of the arising of greed, hate, delusion. Mindfulness means preventing greed, hate, delusion from arising. Of course, you may ask, and rightly so, what if it's already a reason and you suddenly realize it's there? Then you take a step back. You acknowledge greed as greed, hate as hate, delusion as delusion. You see, the trick about all these negative things, these defilements, is that we refuse to recognize them when they arise. For example, a very simple example, when we are angry, someone comes to us and says, "You're angry, right?" Say, "No, I'm not angry." They say, "No, I'm not angry." Actually, you're very angry, right? So this is a very simple practice, very effective. Anger is the easiest to deal with of the 3 negative roots. Greed, hate, delusion. Hate is anger. One aspect is anger. Tell yourself, this is anger. Don't use I, me, mine. Say, this is anger. Okay? This is anger, and I'm letting go of this anger. You find it works very fast that way. Recognize the anger, it goes away. John Milton wrote a poem about this, the anger that is spoken will go away, something like that. Very beautiful words. Or you can actually tell people with a close friend, you can say, "Yeah, I feel very angry." But then you can say peacefully when the anger is gone. So, take anger for what it is. Don't deny it, then it will grow. Desire a bit more tricky, but the process is the same. Accept it, and then find out why it happened. So mindfulness is acceptance of the fact before you, and then examine the conditions that lead to its arising. Delusion is more tricky. In fact, delusion, you won't know it when it's happening, otherwise it won't be delusion. You don't know what's happening. Only after the fact, by what's called review knowledge, you look back and say, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that, I was cheated, or I did the wrong thing." So review knowledge, you look back, you examine, and then you look at the conditions. What brought it about? This is a second noble truth. First noble truth is to accept the negative state as a negative state. This is dukkha. Dukkha here means negative state. Truth number 2, the arising, the conditions that bring it about. What are they? Oh, somebody said something, I was not happy. Why was I not happy? Oh, a similar thing happened in the past and I remembered it. So how do I let go of this? By simply telling myself, let go, let go. That's the third noble truth. Third noble truth is the solution. And then, fourth noble truth, put it into practice. Put it into practice by simply telling yourself. You don't have to tell anybody, you tell us. Right? So that is sati. Now there is something else. Number 4, it says, may my mind not be intoxicated by anything that induces intoxication. What induces intoxication? The word here is mada. Intoxication is mada. Intoxication with youth, health, life. The 3 intoxications. Youth, health, life. Young people are very intoxicated with being young. They like to exercise, build up their body, do fun things, right? Well, do it while it lasts. But when the Buddha saw an old man, he got a shock. Right? He said, oh my goodness, if we all become old, what's the point of me enjoying my youth? Until I become old anyway. So he thought really far ahead. He's not the kind of person that said, wow, people become old, so I might as well enjoy myself now. It's not like that, because he knows the longer you delay the wisdom, the more painful it is. So at once he said, I must do something about it. And then he saw a sick man. Then his intoxication with health evaporated. He thought, there's this sick man, look at him. So what's the point of my health now? I'll get sick anyway. So he's a very deep thinker. See? He doesn't think about himself. He says, my loved ones also will get sick. So what's the meaning of this? So he's asking basic questions. He's asking very basic questions. We all don't like to ask basic questions because we don't know the answer. And it's too troublesome, We just leave that for Sunday. You come and ask some speaker. Let the speaker answer for you. Don't trouble yourself. But he wanted to know the answer for himself. And maybe he had no one to ask, so he was looking for teachers. And then what we saw there, dead man, wow, that's really a shocker. What's the point of me having life when it must end in death? You know what, one of my crazy thoughts, I said, I've written now 47 volumes, I've just finished volume 43, I'm working on volume 44 now. I say, if I die, all these volumes, what happened to them? All these people all over the world, they start using it like vouchers. They will just take it away and write their books and make millions, And here we are putting the effort. But I told myself, I can't stop now because this is my joy. I'm very happy with this. So I tried to explain to my children the value of these books. So this is where, on the other hand, if you reflect positively, this is after the Buddha was enlightened, he taught the reflection on death. Then you know you have a lifespan. Once you know your lifespan, you know your time is limited. So you must do whatever good you want to do, you must do it now. Then you get more motivated. See? And I think that's a very wonderful way of thinking, when you know that you have that time span. Otherwise you'll be lazy like the gods, Take their time, relax, And then suddenly it's that they fall from their divine stage. They just pass away. So these are the 3 intoxications. So the reflection here is, don't get carried away by youth, health, life. Take it as it is. They're all impermanent. That's mindfulness. Okay? Then we come to now nimitta. There's a saying that the Satipatthana is samadhi nimitta.
Oh, sorry, Pia.
Yeah?
Can I just stop you?
Sure.
What is delusion in this context?
Delusion is where you do not see things as they really are. It's not ignorance, but you mistake one thing for another. For example, we might think that this body, I own this body, this is my body, right? So that's a delusion.
Right, okay.
So here it is said that Satipatthana is samadhi nimitta. So what is nimitta? Nimitta is, according to some scholars, the basis for meditation. So in other words, when you look at the breath or the body meditations, they become the basis for your concentration, right? So nimitta, the simple meaning is simply sign. a sign. For example, I told you about the 3 signs just now. The Buddha saw 4. The 4th sign is the holy man. They are also called nimittas. Nimitta. One reason they're called nimitta because the devas, it is said, according to the legend, the devas projected those images, so they're called nimittas. Right? Then when you meditate peacefully, then you begin to notice the breath like a light. That's also called nimitta, but that's a meditation object. Or you watch the breath for focus, that also is nimitta. So here, the 4 focuses of mindfulness are also regarded as nimitta in that sense, right? And now we come to the last term for today, Ekayana Maggo, page 18. This is one of the most important and controversial terms, even today in our times. You might have heard some teachers telling you the Satipatthana Sutta is the only way to whatever, liberation or awakening, right? They base it on this word, Eka Yana. Now look at the spelling. Eka Yana. It is not Eka Yana. There's no such word in the Sutta. Eka Yana means one vehicle. Some Mahayanas like to use this term. They say, oh, there's only one vehicle. No Buddha vehicle, no Bodhisattva vehicle, no Samatha vehicle. Whatever that means, I don't know. Okay? Because it's something the Buddha has not taught, so it's anybody's guess. So it's best to just leave such terms aside, unless you're studying philosophy or history of religions. Ekayana is resolved as Eka, meaning one, plus Ayana. Then it makes more sense. Let's look at the easier term first. Ayana. Ayana is a participle meaning going. Going. It is an effort that is being made. Going. Going in a physical sense, going in a mental sense. So first here, much more mental sense. Now the problem word here is Eka. What does it mean? Let's look at the popular translations in here first. The only way. This is one translation most serious meditators today do not accept. They say we can't translate the only way because it doesn't make sense. For the simple reason, Satipatthana is not the only way. Why? There is breath meditation, there is loving kindness meditation, there's meditation on the 4 elements, there are 40 over meditation, and Satipatthana meditation is only one set. But more important than that, what is the only way? The only way refers to the Eightfold Path. Look at page 22. Page 22 in the middle, can you see the 2 verses? The Eightfold Path is the best of paths. The 4 statements are the best truth. The 4 statements, of course, are the 4 noble truth. Detachment from lust is the best of things. Of the 2-footed or 2-legged, the one with eyes is best. The one with eyes means the awakened person. And then comes the line. There is only this path, no other, for the purification of vision. As such, keep to this path. This is the bewilderment of Mara. So you see here, this is Dhammapada 273, 274, one after the other. Right? So in other words, there is only this path. This path is what? The Eightfold Path. Refers to the previous verse. Notice the Pali. Eso wa magga. Eso means this. Wa means very, only is an emphatic word. Only this. Maggo, path. Nat tanyo, you resolve it as nati, meaning not. Anyo, other. No other. There is only this path, no other. That means only the Eightfold Path leads to purification of vision, leads to awakening. So remember, the only way is not Satipatthana, the only way is the Eightfold Path. Remember Dhammapada 273. Why do people like to repeat this is the only way, they are simply repeating what their teachers or gurus tell them. But this is only one way, even that's not correct way of talking about it. Now, one going. Let me simplify by saying, whenever you see the word one here in this context, can you guess? You say one, what will it refer to? The one or one? Anyone's guess?
One person.
Anyone?
What's your question again?
What does the word one, eka, would mean in this context? Ekayana, yeah? Method. No, not exactly. One going.
Yourself alone.
It refers to the mind. It refers to the mind. Or, to be more exact, oneness. Oneness. Very often in the suttas, remember the Buddha say one is talking about mental concentration, if you like. Mental focus, mental oneness. For example, when you watch your breath meditation, at first you are watching the breath is there, the breath running around, you're not focused. And then slowly you and the breath become one, so to speak. Yeah? There is no more running around. You feel peaceful. That's called one. The one. You get the idea, no? So one here means mental oneness, ekata, or chittassa ekagata, oneness of mind. Now once you understand that, this phrase title becomes very easy. Do you follow this? It's very important. Alright? Now this also solves the problem of the title of the Padikaratta Sutta.
What is the meaning of oneness of mind? Mind is at one with what?
The mind is focused, normal, scattered through the five senses, wandering here, wandering there. Okay? Yeah, some people don't like the word oneness of mind and so on because they talk like some sense, But remember, we just use this word to...
One-pointedness?
Yes, some people also don't like one-pointedness. They say there is what point is it, But remember, in meditation, we use language just as pointers. They are not the dictionary meaning. They describe something more or less, so to speak. It's just like, my mother's time, we all cook something very nice, nice curry. You ask the nyonya cook, how much curry you cook? They say, oh, agak. They won't measure in so many grams or liters. They always say, agak. So you got to watch what she does. My mother does that, So you got to watch. You got to watch and learn. That's the way the Buddha taught it. He won't tell you so many moments in the mind, and he says you just watch and practice, right? So meditation language is also like that, because we don't want to be technical. Then you start thinking about the words and you don't practice. Oneness of mind, mental focus, one-pointedness of mind, all can be used. Yeah. So the word Padikaratta Sutta created some problem. Even today, many people still don't know how to translate Padikaratta Sutta. From which these famous lines come, let go of the past, let go of the future, watch the present moment. Remember that verse? Let go of the past, let go of the future, watch the present. Padikaratta. You see, Bada Eka Ratta. Now, Ratta, you can translate as night. Eka is one. Bada means auspicious, lucky, fortunate. So how do you translate this? The one who's fortunate in one night. Sounds very strange. You can translate you can explain as meaning this person, he meditated the whole night and he got jhana. But if you really look carefully into the Sanskrit version, Ratta, you can translate as delight. Because Ratta can also mean delight. One who delights in the auspicious oneness. It makes perfect sense. Someone who is joyful with the mind when it is one focus. Then it makes good sense. So whenever you see one here, we're talking about mental focus. Okay? So that's the meaning of Eka here. The one going. So now we can translate it as this is the going to the oneness of mind. This practice of Satipatthana brings you to mental focus, brings you to samadhi, or as the forest monk will tell you, Satipatthana brings you to jhana. And this is what we'll be talking about in the next lesson. How the Satipatthana brings us to jhana, to the one. So the one here can also refer to, broadly speaking, the jhanas. Okay? Alright, so just nice, the timing. And just as I intended to stop here, the next week we'll go deeper into the different terms. What does it mean to say body in the body, feeling in feelings, mind in mind, dharma in dharmas, and so on. Any questions? Yeah.
As I understand, Satipatthana and Vipassana are two kinds of meditation.
Oh, Vipassana, Satipatthana and Vipassana.
My question is, these two were taught by the Buddha more or less at the same time or different periods of his life?
Okay, number one, Vipassana is not a method of meditation. Vipassana simply means wisdom. It means insight, right? It always pairs up with samatha. Samatha and Vipassana. These are the two wings of a bird. The Buddha in Dhammapada says they are like two wings of a bird. You need calmness and insight. Samatha and Vipassana to go together. Samatha is when the mind is very calm. And when there is calmness, there is wisdom. When there is wisdom, calmness is even more enhanced. So they help each other, like the two wings of a bird, right? In Burma, around the time I was born, that's about 65 years ago, a teacher that started using this term to emphasize this aspect. But then it grew into, somehow it took on its own life, it became to refer to a kind of meditation. So it's called a Vipassana method. We can call it a Vipassana school, no problem with that, see, but Vipassana is not a meditation. Vipassana is what happens in meditation. We, meaning analytical. Vipassana is to see in an analytical way. Satipatthana is a set of meditation. In a sense, they are not related at once, not at once. Because the purpose of Satipatthana, as we will see in next lesson, is to build up your mind to a very calm state first. To attain right mindfulness first. Okay? And then to get right concentration. So in other words, if you look at the Eightfold Path, what is the definition of right mindfulness? You look carefully, right mindfulness are the four Satipatthana. You see? And then the last, number 8, is right concentration. What is right concentration? The 4 jhanas. You see? So from the Eightfold Path itself, we can see right mindfulness leads to right concentration. The 4 Satipatthanas lead to jhanas. So clear. But somebody changed this, didn't mention this, so it becomes a bit complicated as a result. It's really quite simple actually. So if you actually meditate, that's what happens. Alright? But we got to into the details, how all this is. As I said, next lesson we'll look into more details.
So would it be right to say that Buddha actually taught only one kind of?
Yeah, we can say that. But it's taught in many different ways. Because there are many different kinds of people. There's only one kind of meditation that calms your mind. Okay? But there are many different ways. Any other questions?
So the Buddha mentioned about right effort is more on application of method.
Oh yes.
Right effort.
Right effort, there are 2 pairs. First pair is negative, second pair is positive. Okay? First pair, if you have not done something negative, keep it that way. So this is called the effort of non-effort. Right? We have not smoked before, don't smoke, keep it that way. Okay? In a sense that also the effort. And second one, if you are smoking, then stop it. Okay? So this effort of stopping something negative is happening. So this is the first 2. Right? Second pair of right effort, if you have not done something good, start doing it. Let's say you have not learned meditation yet, start doing it. And if you have been doing it, you continue. Maintenance, effort of maintaining. So 4 efforts. Okay? Any other question?
I'm still confused between the Vipassana and Satipatthana. I may try and summarize.
Sure.
Satipatthana was taught by Buddha
Yeah, both, in a sense, both are taught by the Buddha.
as the way, the only way to meditate.
No, not at all. Remember what I said, one refers to mental concentration, not one way, mental concentration. So, the way to oneness of mind, think of it that way.
Okay.
Vipassana is what happens after that, when your mind is very calm, and then you see impermanence. Okay? That's Vipassana. You see the rise and fall of things, that's Vipassana. We are jumping here because we're going to go into detail about this in the coming weeks, coming lessons. But you can still ask questions.
Where Satipatthana is focusing on the four focuses.
Correct.
Which is
On a simple level, let's just settle for today. You can say Satipatthana is meditation, Vipassana is insight. Insight is a wisdom arising through a calm mind.
which follows Satipatthana.
Yeah, you
Can I
can-
say that?
you can say that.
Because when we talk about insight, in a very simplistic way, when I say insight, i.e. Vipassana arises only after we achieve
Yeah, in a
Satipatthana.
simple way you can. Very simple formula. Satipatthana, Samatha, Vipassana. That will be more realistic.
Okay.
Okay, so we started with that, and then next lesson we'll go into more details about this. Because this takes some time to explain. You know, there's a lot of confusion going on because of ideas that are floating around. Okay, so we end here. Let's do a short reflection. This is a very important moment in our history of studying suttas, to study the Satipatthana Sutta. The fact that we are able to do this is wonderful. The coming together of a lot of good karma. Because we need some kind of calm mind, some interest, some attention, and so on, to be able to follow the sutta. And next thing is to practice this meditation ourselves. And in doing so, greater wisdom and peace would arise in us. Wisdom helping peace of mind helping to clear even more wisdom. Reflecting in this way is very good mental karma. By the power of such karma, may our minds quickly focus, even in this life itself. May we attain spiritual liberation in this trip. In this moment of peace, let us spread our loving kindness to all the beings here. May they be well, may they be happy. And to all the people here, coming to learn the Dharma, working here, running this place, may they all be well, may they. And also to our loved ones, send your loving kindness to them. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.